A common adage is that the goal of portraiture is to capture the essence of the sitter. While this may contain a great deal of truth, this notion does not take into consideration the result of a voluntarily constructed body of portraits. After my experience, I am convinced that a series of portraits captures the essence not of its sitters, but of the artist. With my essence successfully captured and held hostage by that body of work, I underwent a violent awakening to the solitary demand, stated plainly on a ransom note that I had found, undelivered after scores of attempts to make a communication. Tear-stained and crumpled, the note had been discarded and transposed to a text message on my mobile phone, and the demand now consisted of only 4 letters: T-I-M-E. As the saying goes, I had a mountain to climb. Luckily, a course in 17th century Dutch art had equipped me with the necessary tools to undertake the capturing and treatment of time. I looked directly to the genre scene. On September 10th, 1797, Mary Wollstonecraft died. 11 days earlier she had given birth to a daughter of the same name, who would grow up to become involved with the poet Percy Shelley in 1814, after a somewhat tumultuous childhood. By him, Mary Shelley had a baby, which lived for only 2 weeks and was reincarnated in her recurrent dreams. A year later, Shelley, Percy, Lord Byron, and Shelley's stepsister Jane Clairmont spent the coldest summer of the century on the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland, telling ghost stories. It was then that Shelley conceived of Frankenstein, a ghostly manifestation of her demons surrounding the traumas of motherhood and procreation. Frankenstein addresses biogenesis and also the psychological implications of creating one's own monsters. Another product of the summer of 1816 was the Dracula story, a classification of the vampire that is perhaps even more materially pertinent to the role of the male artist who seeks female models. In creating this body of work, I was constantly keeping myself in check with an ongoing comparison of myself to those classical monsters, always trying to be the opposite. In his book, A Study of Vermeer, Edward Snow espouses that feminism is the topic behind the work of the Dutch master. In 17th century Calvinist Holland, this meant a shift in attention toward the affairs, concerns, and livelihood of women. Real women. With the exception of the more religious works that bookended his career, Vermeer never objectified women. Rather, he humanized and empowered them. He gave them space and light, in a time when they likely had neither. Today, women have been given space and light, but systemically have been denied the access to controlling that space or inhabiting that light. The dichotomy between autonomy and vulnerability, violence and play, labor and craft, exists as palpably in modernity as it did in the Golden Age, and strings continue to pull in both directions. What is a man to do then, when he finds himself being the one pulled apart by dichotomy? An artist who dares to question human nature, human relationships, must then have the strength to stand up to the power of the response. At 5 in the morning, the stars and planets still compete for my affections as I scan the morning sky for life. Blue-gray clouds, like little icebergs, hurriedly pass, as if only a few hundred feet overhead. The morning dew attempts a quiet exit but fails to escape my nostrils, and I savor its gift. By what right, then, does the sun interrupt this moment only minutes later, with its overbearing noise and flashy costume, like an uninvited guest who makes his presence known in order to compensate for a damaged ego? But I eat my words. It is the witnessing of this transition that spares me the burden of awakening to what is already the day.